This is a case where our client was on her way to work in the morning. She was not late. She would have been to work early. She came up to a T intersection at a rural highway. She was a healthcare worker working at a pulmonologist's office. Defendant in this case was driving a truck that had been in a prior collision, and the collision had damaged its forward facing lights. All of the factory lights had been damaged. And so that individual attempted to try and, it was during COVID, he couldn't get parts. So he attempted to just jerry rig the lights himself, and it didn't work well. And we contended the lights weren't functioning. He had gone to Home Depot that morning and he had hooked on cube lights that were off road that had a toggle switch that were duct taped to the front bumper. So the only way you could turn on and off the lights were to go to the front bumper. We think he went into Home Depot, did not turn the lights back on when he got out. And the lights, of course, would have been illegal anyway because they were for off-road use, extremely bright. This gives you a little view of some of the evidence taken in the case. So we were able to show that the control switch on the vehicle was in the off position, which is the upper left photo. The bulb that you see is one of the factory bulbs. It was intact, which means it had no filament distortion. If a bulb had been hot and active at the time of impact, the massive shock, the impact would have caused the filament to distort. The photo with the circles on it, the red and the green circle showing the lights on the front, that is what the cube lights look like when they were bolted. On the far, it had a toggle switch that showed how you had to turn them on and off. On the bottom left, you can see an earlier iteration where they had attempted to put in seal beam lights that were held in place with duct tape and baling wire. And what we then showed is that 4 months before this crash, this vehicle had been in another collision, and here's the damage that had occurred from that other collision. And all forward-facing lights, including the bed lights on the truck, were not functioning. That was the estimate. So one of the key questions was, what was the lighting like? The collision happens at 7:46 in the morning, and it happens to be right at the time the daylight savings had switched. So one of the officers, fortunately for us, turned his body cam on. His shoulder, they didn't at that time, and in this county, did not have dash cam, but he turned his body cam on. So we watched every hour of body cam. Multiple officers showed up. He's the earliest one we can have, and so we show it even 7 minutes after the crash. You can see it's still pretty dark out. And it would have been darker earlier. The sun rises at 7:59 that morning, but it was overcast that day. And so we were able to then follow him on his ride from the point where he got the call to the point of the collision, and we now show him driving, and you can see it's overcast as he moves forward. You can see the time is moving forward. The sky's actually starting to lighten up. And so to the left, just above his steering wheel, we note this is now 8 o'clock, so it's now 14 minutes after the collision. You can see that it's overcast that day. And just above his steering wheel right here is the Home Depot where the defendant driver had come from. And so to the jury, I asked them to consider whether they would actually be able to see that sign and recognize it if it were not lit. So this is the nature of how we try and put cases together. This now shows the police officer just as he's coming up to the intersection of where he was going to get out of his vehicle, and you can see that it was really a heavily tree-covered area that he was coming from.